Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of GwenTalk. I am your host, Apero, and with me co hosting today is the lovely, the amazing, the analytical Shinmiri. How are you doing today, Shinmiri?
Thanks, Apero, for that wonderful introduction. I'm doing really well. Had a great weekend watching the Open and really excited to talk to our guests today on the show.
Yes, and speaking of guests, we do have Burza with us. How are you today, Burza?
I'm good, but my camera's lagging. So yeah,
Yes, his
CDPR cut my
camera.
salary after not
Yeah.
delivering leaks. So
You know, that's actually the joke I was going to make, and you took it from me. That's awesome. And so before we get
good.
started, for those who are new to the show, let me tell you a little bit about our format today. So we have two guests with us today. The first is, of course, CDPR Community Manager Bersa, and coming up after that is the headmistress of the Lodge of Sorceresses herself, Ammers, also known as Angie. So the way that we do this is we actually have a little interview with Bersa. We take a break, we watch a green cricket video, and then we have an interview with Amaz. And after that, we will have a group discussion where we will take some questions from you. So if a question comes up during the show that you really want to ask, we won't be asking them immediately from chat, but ask them anyway because our main man Mark Theus will be collaborating, collecting those questions, and we will choose some for the final group discussion. Mark Theus, you want to say hi? Is he in there? Mark
Oh,
Theus?
hello. I'm here.
The man behind the
You
curtain.
can't
The
see
man
me.
behind the curtain.
Pay no attention.
And make
It's
sure
amazing.
with your questions, make sure to tag Team Aretuza with the @
Absolutely right. Couldn't have said it better myself, or perhaps at all. So we will be asking those at the end. So let's jump straight in. We do have community manager, CDPR community manager, Pavel Burza with us here today. Burza, for those who might not know you, I don't know how, but for those who might not know you, could you give us a quick introduction to who you are and what you do? What is a community manager? What do you do for CDPR?
So my name is Burza. I'm 31 years old. I have 184 centimeters of height. I weigh now 69 kilograms, and I'm a community manager for CD Project Red, specializing in Gwent the Witcher card game. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Yeah. So
Simple as
tell
that.
us tell us a little bit more about what you do for CDPR. So what are your responsibilities and how did you come to be in the position that you're in today?
I basically, what do I do? Well, I manage our lovely community with a wonderful team that is getting bigger and bigger. And this team pretty much works in every part of the world. And what we do is we have a lot of meetings. We talk about problems. We also think about what we want to do, how we want to do it, how we want to pass on information to everybody. Um, yeah, I mean, but also I manage our social channels, so I pretty much I'm on our official forums mainly. Also on Facebook, Twitter, all of these things. So we have a lot of channels because we have like the CDPR channel, we have The Witcher, we have Gwent, and now Cyberpunk. So all of these I pretty much work on.
That's really exciting. So you just came back from Gwent Open this past weekend, which was, of course, very intense. What was the highlight of the event for you and why?
Shoot final.
Shoot
For sure.
finals.
Yeah, but I think like overall, I think it was Colomon's beard, and I think that's what made him win because yeah, once the guy gets a beard, you know, level up pretty much. And
Now
yeah,
I
he
know
looks
what
like
I've
a
been doing wrong
badass
all
now.
this time. All this
Secret
time,
tip.
all I needed to
Yeah.
do. I got to work on that.
I personally
Okay.
really like the music videos too, right before
Oh
the
yeah.
finals. Those are really nice. Very, very high
Oh,
production.
thank you. Yeah, we've been collaborating with the same people for those, and they always are pretty cool. They're a hit, and they really like to do it. They really like to come on, actually, you know, to the show and record everything. It takes around a day to get all of those videos done, and of course, we're friends with Bart the Bard. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And of course, we can't really not talk about what happened at the weekend with the leaks scenario. So of
Oh
course, for
God.
those who that's right, buckle up. So because of course last week we all were under the assumption that we were going to be getting some leaks about homecoming at the event, and then we found out that we would not. Now, obviously, you made a presentation at the Open where you explained the reasoning for that. But can you tell us a little bit more about how long you had planned to release information on that date? What was it that set that date, and what went wrong?
Pretty much, what we're trying to do is get as much information from the dev team that is, pretty much they're all full on homecoming. But in order to get something that's, so we can show it to the community, always try to work like super hard to get it super polished.
Mhm.
But since we're still going through like iteration through iteration on the game, we had something that was static, and I was pretty much happy with it. But once we like recorded the whole video, we had everything ready. And on Friday, I sat down with the whole team. I sat down with everyone. I'm like, let's watch this video. Tell me what you think, because I don't know, like, I'm not 100% convinced that this
Mhm.
is what we should be showing after 3 months, that we should be showing more because we have more.
Mhm.
So we sat down and then we made the decision that it's better to deliver something better, but just do it on our time and not try to force ourselves to show it on open.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, that was pretty much what happens on Friday. We're like, okay, I pretty much have to, manage expectations. So I went on Twitter and pretty much sent out that message, and I was like,
Mhm.
I know it's gonna backfire. I know it's gonna be terrible. I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for it, but it's better to do it then than just come on Sunday and stream. And then people are like, "Yay, leaks!" And then you come out and you're like, "Well, guys, well, I don't have anything."
Mhm.
So, but still, it was difficult. Like that was the most difficult thing I had to do probably,
Mhm.
because normally I'm the bearer of good news, and I was the bearer
Yeah.
of bad news. I remember like I was going to bed on Friday night, and I was thinking like, what are you gonna say? And I had the same thing on Saturday. I was trying to fall asleep. I'm like, Jesus
Oh.
Christ, I can't sleep. What am I gonna say? And then we had a rehearsal on Sunday, and I went out. I took the microphone, and I'm like, well, guys, and then pause, and I'm like, okay, this isn't gonna work. So I'm like, okay.
Just
I just
saved it for
went.
the real
I just
show.
went to the guys. Yeah, I just went to the guys on set. I'm like, no, I ain't doing this. I'm just gonna do it live. It's like one take. It's gonna be honest.
It's more genuine that way
Just
too.
all
So
in. Go crazy.
I think that really came
It
across.
is, and the problem I have with Gwent is that I stopped treating it like a product or something that I work on. Like I've worked on the expansions for The Witcher 3, and I treated those as something cool. But with Gwent, I feel I'm so deep into the community and into the game that I don't treat it anymore as something that's just, hey, this is, my job. This is like more. And every time I get something cool from the dev team, I just want to like push it out to the community. That's why I leak
Yeah.
stuff, and nobody, has any problems with me doing that. Although some people sometimes like, nod their head in disapproval. I'm like, well, it was just out there.
Yeah.
I even had the idea to like leak the static images through my Twitter, but somebody stopped me. So,
Oh.
so I'm not gonna do
Oh.
it.
Just backing up a little bit, because when
And
you're
actually,
talking. Oh, sorry, go on. No, go ahead.
go.
Oh, I was just going to say, when you were talking just before about, when you looked at the video and you had the static images and you said, I don't want to release this until I have something better, because we do have something better. So was there anything stopping you guys from editing that video, or from, adding something more movable in there? Or did you really want to wait until it was a completely finished, polished product? What was the
we would have to reshoot the whole thing, and we would have to have like final VFXs, which are still in work in progress. Like
Right.
we have the game already in the new engine, we have everything set up. But like
Mhm.
Luigi and team is already working on gameplay. Everything is on schedule and
Great.
how it's supposed to be. The only problem is that we like to polish things out 100%, and especially when it comes to visuals, and since all the visuals change, then it requires more and more time. So we had to stop, and actually, it was just terrible. It was just terrible because I thought it was good, and then I looked at it, and we all weren't like happy 100%. So we decided it's time to stop.
So with the video scrapped for now, you mentioned on Sunday that the video was about 10 minutes long, and a lot of it was you and Luigi talking about homecoming changes, accompanied with the still images. And the lack of animated gameplay was a key reason for delaying it. Is there anything that you can tell us now about, like, perhaps some of the topics that you and Luigi might have mentioned during the video? Any sort of hints that we can get, just not video or image-wise, but just info-wise?
Yeah, pretty much the things we talked about is we talked about having activated abilities on units that you can trigger on certain occasions. For example, you play a unit and then you can use its ability, but you can't use it instantly. So it has something like summoning sickness, and then later you can actually use the ability. We talked about a limited hand size of 10 cards. They have 10 cards, and if you draw cards in between rounds, so if you draw past round 1, you don't get the additional cards because they get automatically discarded. We also touched upon the idea of having less tutors in the game because they're problematic. And like pretty much what we have right now is a game that we have bronze cards, which are pretty much, you tutor for something, you tutor for something else, and then you play it and it just goes crazy. So those were like the things that we touched upon. I think Luigi went a little bit more into gameplay, but then we kind of, it was kind of what I like the structure of the video, but I thought that it could be a little bit better, and that we could actually, divide these things in a more logical way, because we started out with like visuals, then we went into gameplay, and it was kind of some of the things that they were working on, and it was like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It wasn't very coherent. I like to always have everything kind of structured nicely.
Okay.
So
quickly going back to one of the things that you mentioned about limiting hand size to prevent dry passing. In my opinion, it's like one of the current strategies that's kind of mitigating the advantage of coin flip and having red coin. So if you are going to do something like limiting hand size, do you have a current solution or an idea for what you want to do with coin flip? And is it, you had mentioned previously the leader initiative idea, is that still something that you're looking at, or have you moved on to something else, other ideas right now?
We have ideas for that, but nothing I can go into like specifics at the moment, so I won't be sharing anything regarding that. Also, the thing we talked about was having 2 rows, but we only touched upon that. So I know that's quite a controversial topic among the community. So that was also one of the things that we briefly touched upon. But yeah, like everything else was kind of on my end, I think it just needed a little bit more polish, a little bit more work, and we could actually show more of the project. Because it's farther than what we wanted to show. So simple as that.
Okay, so I'm getting like the feeling here that from what you said before, that everything is on schedule. It's just that for what you wanted to show and release to the community, it wasn't at a point where you were like, oh yeah, I'm really excited to show this now.
Yeah, I mean, if you're showing something after 3 months, it should be like super polished, in my opinion, in our opinion, and it should be something that draws not only the community we have, but also the community that might be interesting in the game. So we want to upload this everywhere and show it everywhere, but in order to do so, it has to be like something that we're like super happy with, and we know that it's 100%, that it's polished. And that's always like the thing, because I know like the whole team works super hard on it, and they do an amazing job. But for us, what we have to do is pretty much show their work in the best possible way, and I think that we could do it like still we could do it better than that. Of course, it was good. Quality was good. Everything was awesome, but it could be like still a lot better. So we'd rather just stop and wait and show something that we're super happy with, and then everything will be fine.
Sure. And so speaking of that, I guess sorry, Shinmiri, just give me a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
So speaking of that, I guess the initial reactions were obviously disappointment. There was a lot of criticism, of course. I think people were just heartbroken might be too strong of a word, but they were, they were obviously just a little bit disappointed. But there was also a lot of hope, a lot of people backing you and backing CDPR and saying okay, like they just need a bit more time. But I'm like still a lot of excitement. I know you're probably hesitant at this point, given what just happened, to release a timeline or a date. But I guess the big question that everyone's wondering is, when can we expect to see some sort of sample? Do you have even a rough timeline for us on that?
I don't want to make the mistake of going out and saying when specifically, because I already made that mistake on my Twitter, being all happy, hyping people, and getting ready. So I'm a little bit hesitant to go into like specifics, but like of course we have a plan, and we know what we want to achieve, and but in order to do that, I just want to like stop. I'm kind of like I burned myself once. I don't want to do it again.
That makes sense.
So with the delay of the preview, a lot of fans have kind of maybe gone a little too far and started calling doomsday scenarios, saying Gwent's canceled. And obviously you allayed those fears in the the Gwent Open this weekend. Is there anything you can say about like, does this delay of the preview have any effect on when Homecoming is actually going to be released?
No, I think we'll know in about a month's time where we are in terms of like giving a solid date, if it's going to be more or less the time that we anticipate it to be, if we need more time, if the team needs more time, or if they if we can make it in the timeline that we proposed in the letter by Martin Yavinsky. So it's still open to things can happen. Like it's like, think of it as you're pretty much sitting and performing surgery on an open heart, and you don't know what happens. Like everything might be great, something might go south, but right now we look pretty good. Yeah.
But we're definitely not canceling the surgery. The heart is going in.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, we're not.
Okay. Wonderful.
No canceling here.
Perfect. Very last question: PTR or no PTR?
This is something that I talk extensively with the team for some time, and we agreed with the game director that if we do a PTR, it has to be a PTR in which we take community feedback into consideration, and we actually implement changes and we do things. It cannot be a PTR where we just do a PTR and we're just testing if the stability of the servers in the game. It has to be meaningful, and but like I said, in a month's time, we should pretty much know where we are. But I want to do a PTR for sure.
Wonderful. Well, great news.
Great.
So guys, we're just going to ask you to hold tight, and in just a second, we're going to move to our interview with Ammers. Thank you, Burza, so much for speaking with us today, and you stay on the line, and we will be coming back to Burza in our group discussion soon. So
Thanks,
let's get a video from Green Cricket.
Hey everyone, it's time again to review cards with interesting mechanics that don't see a lot of play. Today we meet a sorceress of the lodge who carefully tried to manipulate the King Henselt of Kedwen. Or not so carefully actually, because Sabrina was not known to be subtle. If people ignored her, then she slammed her fist on the table and made herself heard, interrupting even the king himself, because Sabrina knew that she was smart beautiful, and she could get everything she wanted, which is also why she enjoyed wearing the most provocative outfits she could think of. And for a while, everything in her life was perfect, and the king just shut up and heeded her counsel. Until the day she made one mistake too many, and Hansel put her on the stake to die in flames. But even with her dying breath, she showed her strength and power using fire and blood to put a powerful curse on Hansel, but that is a story for another time. In Gwent, Sabrina is a spying unit with an interesting death wish, which sets the power of all units in a row to the power of the lowest unit on that row. So the longer the round, and the more row stacking happens, the more powerful Sabrina will become, especially when you manage to sneak in that 1-point unit in between. Typical combos with Sabrina are Geralt Art to align the units in the way you like, while killing off Sabrina at the same time to trigger her death wish. You can use Hansel down to Siege Master, which you use on Faulty Sprite to align a lot of units within one turn, and also to kill Sabrina if you want to. And using Gold Weather encourages your enemy to row stack without any additional help. I hope Sabrina encourages you to play a bit more Northern Realms these days, because they need some loving. And now back to Apero and Shinmiri, and of course our awesome guests.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We will be back with Burza after this interview with the lovely, the amazing headmistress of the Lodge of Sorceresses Discord community, Ammers. Hello, Ammers. How are you today?
Hi, I'm well, and yourself?
Oh, thank you for asking. I'm very well. Thanks.
And Shinmiri?
I'm
And
doing
Shinmiri.
great.
He's
Good to-
okay. Yeah.
Very happy to talk to you today. And so I'm wondering, and I'm sure the viewers are wondering too, how did you find the game Gwent in the first place, and what made you fall in love with the game?
So, can you hear me okay, by the way? Am I loud enough? We're good?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay. I finally played The Witcher 3 after my boyfriend badgered me about it for a couple of years. I was like, that doesn't look like my kind of game. And then I gave it a try, and it totally was. It's definitely my kind of game. And I really liked Gwen in that. And I'm kind of a card game junkie. I played Magic a lot. I played Hearthstone a lot. And when I played Gwent in The Witcher 3, I really enjoyed it. And then I saw someone mention a standalone version of it. And I love competitive multiplayer games. So I was like, yes, get me a closed beta key. And I begged for one on Reddit, and I got one. And I started playing it, and then I stopped playing it in The Witcher 3. Like, I finished playing The Witcher 3, of course, but I was just playing Gwen outside of it. And that's kind of how I got into it.
Awesome. And at what point during that were you like, you know what? I'm going to run a community for this game?
You know, it was kind of on a whim. I had kind of been thinking about it. I was like, there have to be other women who play this game. Because the only person I would really talk to was my buddy Spenny, who went to the same college as me, and he's now my co-admin of the group. But we would just sit and play Gwent and chat in Discord for hours. And I was like, are there any other groups that chat while they play? And the answer was no, not really. So that was one of the main focuses of the group. And I thought, okay, well, what else can we do with a group if we were to make one? And then I thought, I'm in like a couple women's group for other games like Overwatch and stuff. And I said, is there one for Gwent? No, maybe we should make one. So I made a post on Reddit to gauge interest, and there was interest, but it didn't show up in the comments. What showed up in the comments was, why on earth would you put gender politics into our game? And then in my PMs came a bunch of messages saying, yes, please make a group for women. I don't want to comment because I don't want to be a target, but please make a group for us. I got like dozens of messages like that. And so I was like, all right, let's just do it and see what happens. And so I did.
And I mean,
Awesome.
that is just before we jump into the next question, I also want to just clarify, when you say a group for women, there seems to be a little bit of misunderstanding here sometimes from people about what that means. So is the group
Yes.
only for women, Amaz?
It is not. And the reason it's not is because there was a ton of interest in the other parts of the group. Our mentoring that we were going to set up, there was a lot of interest in that. There was a lot of interest in just having a group that was all about being positive and accepting and inclusive. Not to say that other groups aren't, but we're very proactive about it. And I think that's important. And so there was a lot of interest in that from everywhere. And since February, just doing private invites, we're now over 600 members. Grown very quickly. So anyone's welcome. Anyone is welcome is the point.
That's huge. The lodge has grown into such a big community now with so many different people from different walks of life. And it focuses a big part of the lodge actually focuses on the mentoring and player development. Have there been any success stories that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, we have. I very consistently, I would say, our biggest success is in helping people push to GM. We have a lot of very high level players in the lodge,
Mhm.
and we have people give us requests. They'll say, "Hey, my main faction is this, my time zone is this, here are my goals. Can anybody help me out?" And then we pair people up, and the mentors will reach out to people who send us requests, and they'll do some kind of private sessions and help them figure out their weaknesses and how to improve. And I'm sure, Pro, you're familiar with that process yourself. Both of you.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't
absolutely.
mean that in a
Actually,
bad way. I meant that in a good
no,
way.
no, 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 no. It's
Because I know.
true. I mean,
Yeah.
Shinmiri and I have literally
Yeah.
co-op together both on
Yeah.
stream and off stream, so it's something that we really enjoy doing. So for me personally, I know that a lot of my improvement and how I got GM in the first place was through my development through another tournament that helped me get access to a GM who was helping me. That was Crozier, who I cannot is the most lovely person, by the way, if anyone doesn't know him. But yeah, tell us a bit more about how that works, because obviously Shinmiri and I have done this kind of thing co-opted before, but for those people who might not have hit 4K before, or who might not have hit GM before and have never done that, like what does it involve? Literally, what is it? Like, how does it work?
So what we do is it kind of it. Sorry, I'll rephrase. It's based on however the mentee
Hmm.
prefers to learn, however they think they're going to learn best. We do video reviews.
Hmm.
We'll do live stream coaching. That is sort of a recent development. We used to not allow that because we felt that it was unfair to the opponent to be
Okay.
essentially playing versus two minds. But we
Hmm.
recently lifted that rule and
Okay.
just said, okay, make sure that you're not piloting the deck for the person. It
Sure,
needs to
that
be
makes sense.
coaching. Don't play the deck for the person.
Yeah.
So that's something we offer. It just depends on what the mentor is comfortable with and what the mentee wants. I do VOD reviews as well. I mentor a little bit here and there. So those are the main two that we use.
Yeah, wonderful. And what has the reaction been to that? Have you had lots of GMs now, new GMs?
Yes, yes, we have. We've had a lot of new GMs, definitely. We've also had great success stories of people who were stuck down at like rank the lower like teens and stuff, and they're like, oh,
Sure.
I've never reached rank 20, and we've helped them gain like multiple ranks from where they used to be.
Wonderful. And so we also saw recently that Wild Hunt 2 was on, and we all, I guess by now, are very familiar with the Lodge of Sorceresses ads from Wild Hunt 2, which may or may not feature my own voice. But but tell us a little bit about how you got involved with Wild Hunt 2.
Wild Hunt is within driving distance of me. We're here in DC. Um, and so the Wild Hunt 1 is what helped me kickstart the lodge to begin with, because I saw that that was happening and I was thinking about doing the group thing. And I thought to myself, well, that would be a great place to meet people and make some connections and get the word out. And so I went there with a bunch of flyers. In fact, I still have one on my shelf back there. I can grab it if you want to see it.
Yeah, sure.
I
Why
made
not? Why not?
Yeah, this is fine. I have these little scrolls that I brought
Oh,
that are
fancy.
like, yeah, and we tied them all up, and they were like written invitations, like kind of on, I don't know if you can see,
Oh.
on like scroll like paper,
Hmm.
and yeah, we passed those out. That's where we got a lot of our original mentors.
Yeah.
So it was really helpful. People were really positive about it, and I made a lot of connections there, especially with people like Flake and
Mhm.
Mark. And we wanted to get involved with the second one a little bit heavier, so we actually sponsored it, and that's why we had that ad.
Mhm.
The ad, I don't feel comfortable calling it that because it's a free social community.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
In fact, one thing that we forgot to put on there is that it's a Discord community. I'm not sure how that slipped
Ah.
past us. Anyway, where was I going with that? I'm really ADD today. I'm
What you
sorry.
did, no, that's fine. What you
Oh,
did at
right.
Wild Hunt 2.
So we sponsored it, and I did not have to pay for it all myself. We crowdfunded it, and
Lovely.
I only had to pay for about 15% of it myself. I put up a
Mhm.
crowdfunding for it, and our members immediately donated multiple hundreds of dollars towards a sponsorship
Wow.
in one day. It was crazy, and it was awesome. So
That's
that's kind
excellent.
of what I went
Yeah.
there personally. I mean, you saw me on the thing if you watched it.
Yeah.
I helped out on the floor with the tournament. I was doing admin stuff there, helping people get set up with their computers and all that good stuff.
Really awesome to see that sort of community support for
Yeah.
a local run tournament. I also heard that you brought a physical Gwent set to Wild Hunt 2
Yeah.
as well.
I did. And if I'd known we were going to talk about that, I would have unpacked that as well. But if you want to see it, I have pictures online, and it's also I showed it on McBeard's stream both there and at the video that we did before going out there. So
Yeah, that looked
it's
really
out there if you
cool.
want to see it. It was
So,
very fun. We have a lot of pictures.
so what kind of things can we expect from the Lodge of Sorceresses in the future?
We presently we have a little tournament that we're doing to just test the waters to see if people want to do regular kind of casual tournaments. So we're doing, I think we only have 7 spots left to fill, and we're doing that Saturday. We're just doing kind of a no skill requirement. That being like there's no cutoff for like MMR to participate. No skill requirement, little casual tournament on Saturday, and I'm prizing it with some Steam keys. I have like this huge long list of over 100 keys that I use to kind of prize stuff for the lodge for
Cool.
participation, and like we're doing a crappy cosplay contest right now as well. So get those entries in, guys. Get them in. Socks
I
on.
the crappy cosplay is one of my favorite things about the Lodge of Sorceresses. I remember I was bored in my dressing room once, and I put a piece of paper over my eye, and I took a photo of it, and I made it Alzor's double cross.
Yes.
It was a highlight of my day.
So that's going on. Point being, I'm prizing that little tournament with some Steam keys, and people have been donating some as well. So that's how we're doing that.
Wonderful. Oh, that's
Yeah.
excellent. Well, I'm really glad to hear about that. So we were speaking just earlier with Bersa. Of course, you were in the call but on mute. So you would have heard that. How are you feeling more generally, kind of backing off from the community aspect? How are you feeling more generally about Gwent as a game? Are you feeling generally optimistic or generally pessimistic? What's your vibe?
Like regarding Homecoming,
Sure, yeah, or just
Um,
in general. Yeah.
I think the meta is actually way more diverse right now than people think it is. We see a lot of stuff right now. In fact, I was just chatting with Argifontes and is visiting presently. He was in he placed 3rd in Wild Hunt 2. So you might have seen him on that stream. I think you may or may not be able to see him. They're back there watching on the computer. Him and Kelly, who is the one of the head admins of Gwentmasters Worldwide, they're here visiting. So I was just
Awesome.
chatting with them earlier about that, and we were talking about how diverse and interesting the meta is right now, despite debatably being quote stale.
Yeah, I
We
totally
think
agree.
it actually is.
I mean, you still see like new cards finding play, like
Mhm.
Sihil from this weekend in Gwent Open.
Yeah.
Like, there's still a lot of pockets of undiscovered stuff lying around, and I think it'll be. I think people grossly overestimated how stale the meta was going to be leading up to
I agree.
Homecoming.
And then
Absolutely.
as far as
Very-
Homecoming goes, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, please.
Well, as far as Homecoming goes, I am very optimistic. CDPR is so well known for making quality content that I know that when it comes around, it's going to be spectacular, and I really want to be blown away. And I want to be more optimistic than I am, but I just see so much distraughtness on the community about the way that it plays that it like hurts me on the inside to see that.
Yeah.
But I'm personally very optimistic. I am concerned about potential audience in the meantime being pulled away by other CCGs. So that's a concern for me.
You thinking artifact or magic or similar?
Yeah, because
Okay. Well,
people will go to play whatever's available.
yeah, that's
And
true.
hopefully they'll come back.
Hopefully, I think we all hope that. But okay, so let's actually just wrap it up there, and we're going to move into our group discussion while we're on the topic of the game in general. So I think Mr. Marktheus, is he there? So we're gonna go into the group discussion. We're gonna head into the group discussion and bring Burza back. So Burza, just a reminder to unmute your microphone if you haven't already. There he is.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back, everyone. So now we're here. Just gonna wrap it up there. Thank you so much, Amaz, for that conversation, and I'm sure we will have some more questions as they come up. Just a reminder to everyone in chat to tag Team Aretuza. If you have a question, Marktheus is selecting some questions that we will ask at the end, so please do submit them, and hopefully you get your question asked. So now that we have you both here together, you are both community builders. in different senses, one coming kind of more from the community side itself, and one coming from the corporate side, of course. But if you had to describe community building, it's kind of a bit of a nebulous term. How would you describe community building to someone? Can we start with you, Berja?
For me, it's quite simple. Like, since I work for a company and we have product, so around this product, you have communities which form around it. So for us, it's a lot easier. What we have to do is we have to maintain that community, talk with that community, and support the community. And those are the most important things. The first thing that I learned as community manager, because I started out like an assistant helping Marchimomo, who's known for working on since Witcher 2, if I remember that correct, since Witcher 2. And the first thing I learned is just to be, just to be open, be vocal, and talk with the community and try to pass on all the things that community likes or dislikes, pass it to the dev team, and try to kind of like bridge this gap in between everybody. So I think that's the most important thing. But for me, it's like I said, it's a lot easier since we already had the community, let's say, form for us in some way. Yeah.
What about you, Amaz? What do you think? How would you describe community building from your perspective?
It's like gardening, if that makes any sense. I
That's a good one.
don't even feel comfortable when people try to give me credit for the lodge. I just am like a person who started inviting people to a thing and it just turned into a bigger thing. But it's kind of like gardening in that the community members really make the community, and I'm just there to kind of like make sure there's light and there's water and that things are all in a row.
Aww.
And that stuff is growing okay. Like, I'm just kind of there to tend it. I don't. Yeah, it's really the people. We have such a strong active community that if they weren't there, then it wouldn't exist.
That's a really good way to put it, I think. And at some point, it becomes self-sustaining, and you just have to, tend to it once in a while.
Yeah, and you got to pluck the weeds.
No.
So on a slightly darker note, you both have faced a lot of criticism in the past for very different reasons. But what would you personally say is the toughest part of your work with the community? Burza, you want to go first?
Gwen up in number 6 saying, "Hey guys, no leaks." That was the toughest, to be honest. Other than that, I had a pretty smooth ride. Community has always been very supportive of me, which I'm super thankful for. Although I still don't know why they like me so much, but still, it's super awesome. And yeah, like the toughest part is always, like, for me, the toughest part is trying to convey something from the dev team back to the players and actually show them that, hey, check this out, this is awesome, or and vice versa, taking something that's not working properly or is problematic, and then that the community sees as a problem and showing it to the dev team, like, guys, you have to check this out, you have to do something about this. And then they try to put that in let's say the whole roadmap structure, because there's a lot going on and it's just additional stuff, but I think they do an awesome job with that. So
can I ask about that for a second, just to divert from the main question a little bit? What do you do if the devs bring out something that they're super proud of, and people are like, they do a PTR or they're playing the game and they're like, this isn't great. I mean, how do you break that news to a developer? I mean, how do they take it, or is that kind of just something that they're used to doing now?
They're cool. They're cool about it. They what they do is they simply sometimes they just invite me to like high level meetings, and they're like, "What do you think?" And they say like, "What is the community gonna think about it?" And I just like, they're like, just be open about it. They're like, "Will they like it or not?" And I just sometimes just say like, "No, we can't do this," or "Yeah, this is gonna be great," and they react super positively, or we try to alter the idea to make it a little bit less controversial or something, to make it better or to fix it a little bit. So they're very open to suggestions. They're not like, closed or anything like that. So yeah. They take it quite well.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
So
And
Ammers,
Ammers,
yeah.
how about you? What has been the biggest challenge for you in terms of working with the community?
Okay, so stop me if this goes on too long because this is a really good question. My biggest challenge is one, trolls. Because the group is focused on
Oh,
women and LGBTQ. LGBTQ, for those who don't know, stands for lesbian, gay, bi, trans, and queer. We look out for minorities. Because of that, sometimes we get trolls, and that's why we do private invitations only. So if you'd like an invite, you have to just contact one of us. Um, the reason we get trolls is because people associate feminist groups with they tend to associate them with the radical social justice warrior Tumblr third wave feminism nonsense.
Mhm.
Maybe that's a harsh word to use, but like that really radical stuff that you see online with like people who are super easily quote triggered and stuff. And we're actually really chill. I put a lot of effort into us not being associated with any of that. That's also why I don't like to use the word safe space because people don't like that word when they think
Mhm.
about that radical side of third wave feminism that's going on right now. Um, so that is something I put a lot of effort into not associating us with because I don't think it's relevant to us at all. This is normal feminism, normal healthy feminism. We are just a normal group of normal people being ourselves. That's actually our motto: is at the lodge you can be yourself.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you find that that's the hardest thing, is having to explain that to people or disassociate yourself
Yes.
from the assumptions that people have that you're going to be a highly political group, whereas in actual
Right.
fact it's just turn up, be yourself, have a nice time, maybe make some friends along the way.
Exactly. Yeah. hmm
All right,
Yeah,
great.
and
Well,
I actually really enjoy converting trolls. We don't like to kick people. We've banned
Mhm.
less than 10 people out of
Mhm.
the 600 that are in the group. We've
Wow.
had less than 10 bans. And I really prefer to educate trolls and let them see for themselves that we're a chill group rather than to remove them when I can help
Yeah,
it. So that's one
absolutely.
of the biggest challenges.
Well, I guess that kind of brings us to the next question, which is kind of flipping it around. We've had a little look at what's the most challenging bit, but what would you say is the most rewarding part, or what is the most positive aspect of building a community? Amaz, do you want to start this time?
Oh, wow, rewarding. People really like having a place where they can just be themselves and they can
Mhm.
make meaningful relationships. I've
Mhm.
had a lot of people come to me and thank me for creating the space, just because it's really helped them make connections and enjoy their online experience over multiple games. Because we have a lot of people who don't just play Gwent, they play like Overwatch and Guild Wars and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I'd say that's the most rewarding, is just watching people form relationships.
Great. Berja, what do you think? What's the most rewarding part for you?
Most rewarding for sure when we come up with something and people really, really like it and they send, like what we still get as CD Projekt Red is we get like thousands of emails from people saying like The Witcher changed their life, how Gwen changed their life, how they were able to find a community, how it has helped them through a rough time in their lives, how they were dealing with, I don't know, depression, like even death in the family, which is like super, super hardcore. And when we get these messages, it's just like, wow, we're really doing something life changing and something that is more than just a game. So I think that's the most rewarding thing. Like we sometimes don't even know how big the impact is. And what I try to do, like, is collect all these messages and I just send them out to like the whole studio. So over like 600 people gets like
Yeah.
messages from people how The Witcher, how Gwent, and whatever we have done has changed their lives, which is very, very impactful, and it's awesome. It's super awesome.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things actually generally about being in the arts. For those who don't know, my full-time job is as an opera singer, and it can be hard sometimes to kind of think to yourself, am I doing anything that's actually worthwhile in this job? But you're right, like a lot of the times your impact is unseen and unheard, and that is the art and gaming in general and communities like the ones that Amaz run. There are ways of supporting people through tough times, and there are outlets that people have to help them at those moments, and you can't always predict how you're going to be helping people. All you can do is put the good stuff out there and kind of hope that it's having a good impact. So I resonate very strongly with what you're saying there, Berger. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really uplifting to hear. It's touching how much a game can really help people out there, right? Moving on, I think there's like with Homecoming, there's a lot of mixed feelings about Homecoming in general. What do you guys think about the reaction so far? Burza, you want to start?
Can someone else start? I want to see what you guys have to say.
All right, well,
but like, yeah, go.
I was gonna say, why don't we throw to Ammers first, and then we'll come back. We'll come back so you have a chance to form your thoughts.
I pay a lot of attention to what people are saying on the forums, on Reddit, and on my server, and it's it's a mixed bag. You got the people who are like, just give them time, it's fine, I trust them, and you've got the people that are like, they're killing their game. So that's the two like polar opposite sides of it, and then there's the ones that are in the middle that are like, oh well, we'll see. I'm sure they'll, it'll be okay eventually. Sorry, what was the question?
Question is what do you think of the public's reaction to Homecoming, and maybe expand a little bit, just like what your personal outlook is.
I think a lot of people are going a bit overboard with their predictions of the death of the game. I think that's ridiculous. My personal opinion, I think I did cover earlier. I'm optimistic. I can't wait to see what you guys have. I just hope it doesn't get delayed too long, because that just hurts the community over and over and over when promises are broken. And that's what really gets people, is that the promises are broken and they want what was promised. Obviously, you know that. I don't have to tell you that,
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah. So,
Living a life. What I think of the overall reaction of the community. Well, I think I get it. Like after Midwinter, which wasn't great, to say the least.
Yep.
I'm not surprised that they're hesitant and that they have like second thoughts as to what we're going to bring to the table. But what I can simply say is that we learned a lot from that experience, and in order to move forward, we have to go crazy and do the stuff we want to right now. And I mean crazy, but of course in a controlled crazy way. If you can actually be crazy in a controlled way, if you know what I mean. But like when I talk to the team working on Gwent right now and doing all the changes, they're like, dude, we wanted to do all these changes, but we're kind of rushing and going through all the changes in the game, and we were really like focused on the patches, on the new cards, and kind of like, going, where we didn't have time to kind of stop and do like, hey, maybe we should do this, maybe we should change, maybe we're not going the right direction. And right now they can't actually do that. So they're like super uplifted and happy that they can, do some crazy new things with the game. So I think everything's good. Like we're working hard. I mean, they're working super hard. I'm working a little bit, maybe not as hard as they are, since I still have time for bike riding.
Yeah, maybe don't say that in your performance review, Berger. Maybe leave that one.
No, I just had my performance review. It was awesome. It went great.
Oh, great.
Everybody told me that I'm doing a great job, so I was like, oh, that's nice to hear.
Yeah. Well, I think we all agree. I mean, like, there's one thing that kind of most people agree on, and that is that Berger is awesome and that we love Berger. So I think you're good. You're good.
Oh, thank you.
And I just want to drop in quickly before we move to viewer questions. I just want to drop in quickly that we saw on Reddit someone had posted a quick translation of a Polish, if I'm remembering, like a stock analyst or something, that had mentioned the idea that they thought a mobile version of Gwent would be out within 12 months of Homecoming's release. I know that is like kind of, we're looking at October, November 2019, but can you confirm or deny any sort of idea that mobile will be built into the next version of Gwent, for lack of a better term?
Like, we would love to have Gwent on mobile, but for now we're not working on that. So I mean, the article, it was written in Polish. I read the article this morning, and it was just that they presume and think, and it wasn't anything that was solid, but it kind of developed into being a story. So yeah.
Sure.
That's all I can say. That's the truth.
Good one.
How do you
sorry.
think that that a mobile release might affect your ability to compete with Hearthstone? I mean, I think that's what people are thinking about when they think about playing it on mobile.
That's a good question, actually. Um, that's a difficult one to answer, to be honest. Thinking about it, like, I think, like, what we have with Gwen, like, overall, is like, of course, accessibility is important, and it's a number one topic right now when we talk about any type of title, any type of game. Like, everybody wants to have games on Switch because they can take it with them. I myself, when I'm commuting and I'm not on my bike because it's raining, I take my 3DS or my Switch with me because, yeah, it just helps me buy time. I'm not really into mobile games. Like, I don't play Hearthstone, but it's a choice. So I think it might be something that it's not a showstopper still, because if you play, like, I play Magic since middle school, and I play it in physical form, but that's like totally different, game. And I play it online, but I play it, in my house. I think, still, like, so many layers to, like, you could answer is, like, we still have a skill-based game, and Hearthstone, like, what drove me away from Hearthstone was that it wasn't very, like, very skill focused, and that's like the most important thing for me when it comes to card games. That's why I like Magic, because Magic is, like, super skill based and doesn't have a lot of random effects. If they do have random effects, like unglued or unstable stuff, so I'm not worried, to be honest. Like, we're like, if you think about, like, competitors and stuff like that, I mean, thinking about Hearthstone, okay, but we have MTG Arena right now. We have Artifact looming very, very closely. Like, I know that some community members, are already playing Artifact. Like, all of these things are like totally common and normal. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's hard to tell, but I think once we have Homecoming out of the way, we can pretty much see where we're at and what else we can do to make Gwent more popular amongst players, and to reach a wider audience, because that's going to be our goal. Plus, I mean, we're working on Thronebreaker, and once players see this type of single player campaign, I think it'll blow their minds away, because I don't think any card game has done a mini RPG in a card game.
No, not to that scale. And I think I speak for everyone when I say I'm super excited to see what you guys have in store for us with Thronebreaker and all the other single player RPGs that you've teased. Like, Thronebreaker is just the first of a series. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Very exciting.
Yeah, I played, like, Thronebreaker a week ago, and it just blew me away. Like, I've played the game when it was around, like, Gamescom, where we were, like, showcasing for the first time, and from that point on till now, it has become something crazy and awesome. So I'm excited for that, for sure.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, you guys. We are going to move to some viewer questions. So we have some pre-prepared questions. If you have questions for our guests in a fortnight, you can submit all your questions in advance on the Team Aretuza public Discord. The link is down there somewhere. So go click on that. It's awesome. But we're going to start with our first viewer question. Let's have a little look. What is the most important thing to consider in building a community? Most important thing. Ammers, what do you think?
Something that myself and my co-admin Spenny considered when we were initially forming the group was what we wanted the focus to be. And I've seen a lot of groups that kind of try to be everything, and I don't think that works for most people, because there's a lot of groups that do everything. So why would you go to one in particular? So we wanted to have a couple focuses, and that was, of course, the minority focus, and then we wanted it to be a learning based server, and we wanted it to be, let's see, I don't remember. It's a lot of things.
I think you make a really good point.
I had this written down at some point.
You have your community be focused towards something that people can.
Focus is very important.
Identify your community with certain traits.
Oh, and we wanted it to be lore based.
Oh,
War-based
nice.
was another one.
Yeah.
That's why we went with the Lodge title, because we wanted it to be faction neutral and have a woman theme, so
Yeah.
that it would
I,
immediately be recognizable as female friendly.
I think it's also something, if I may branch out a little bit, to say that it's something that we as streamers, and Shinmiri, I think you'd probably agree, we also have to kind of decide on quite early when we are deciding to build a community for ourselves. We have to say, okay, well, who am I? Like, what is my thing? Like, you know, Shinmiri and
Exactly.
I, we love working together, but we are very different streamers in many ways.
Right.
And so we try to learn a bit from each other, but we always know, okay, I've got my focus on this, or I've got my focus on that, and I think it is essential. So I think you're spot on there, Amaz. Berja, what do you think?
The other
Oh, sorry.
focus was voice chat. I remembered it. It
Voice
was
chat. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
We did
right.
a lot of things in voice chat.
Yep. Berja, so what do you think is the most important thing when building a community?
Whew. For us, it's communication. Like for any type of game developer, the number one thing has to be communicating like back and forth, and that's always will be number one. Like Ammers, for her, like she is creating something from the ground up.
Yeah.
And for us, we're taking something that has been created and interacting with it and trying to help out and trying to support in some way. Like if they're doing their own tournaments or anything like that, we support. If they want, you know, something like simple as an interview, or just to talk with the developers, or just talk with their community managers in their native language, of course we can do that. And I think that's the most important thing, is just communicating, showing that we care, and actually showing that, because what I've seen, like, let's go back in time. Like before patch 108, for The Witcher 3, I had a problem of Lambert in Kaer Morhen. There won't be any spoilers, don't worry. Falling into the ground, and I couldn't interact with him, and I couldn't process, like I couldn't go through the main quest in The Witcher 3, and I was furious. And trust me, I've played many RPGs, I played many games. I never went on any forum or asked the questions like, hey, when is this going to be fixed? But for this game, I actually went on the forums. I wrote a message. Of course, it was civilized. It wasn't like, oh, when are you guys going to fix this, or I'm going to come and bash your head? And it wasn't anything like that. It was just like, hey, I have a problem with this. Can you tell me when are you guys going to fix it? And I wasn't expecting an answer, because my previous experience with working with any developer or writing a forum is nobody would write back, or support might have wrote back, but it would take a lot of time. And then Martin replied to me the same day, and I was like, holy moly, that's crazy. And he said that he'll pass on the information and stuff like that. I was like, wow, these guys actually care, you know. And I've played The Witcher 1, I played The Witcher 2, no problems. And with 3, I had that one bug. And I was like, holy, actually they care, and they actually want to help me out. And this was something that I've never experienced. And I think if you're working with the community, and Martin has been working with the community for such a long time, and he's like my superior right now, I've learned really a lot from him. And that was the number one thing I learned. You have to be always in front talking to the community, and I think that's the most important thing.
I have to say, I think it really shows how much importance you guys put on communication and communicating with the fans.
Yeah.
And despite the little snafu with this most recent homecoming leak and some of the flack that you guys might get, I think you guys do an amazing job with community communication, development, stuff like that. I've played a ton of different games throughout my life, and I have never, honestly, I've never encountered a game developer that does it as well as you guys. Not trying to butter you guys up or anything. Just that's the truth.
But also, just coming on here, a lot of people, when they heard that the leaks weren't happening, they were like, oh, so is Burza still going to be on the talk show? And I'm like, yeah. But for me it was a no-brainer. For me it was a no-brainer, but I guess for some other companies, they might have been like, well, we don't have an agenda to push now, so I guess we don't come on. So it was.
People were asking me if I knew what was going on, and I was like, I don't know, I'm just a girl.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to our second viewer question.
I'm just a girl.
Oh, living in captivity. All right. What is CDPR's philosophy on RNG in Gwent? What level of RNG will post homecoming have? So obviously, this viewer question was a little bit targeted at Bersa. So maybe we'll just throw.
I really
straight
like this one.
RNG into a limited RNG, like not crazy RNG create style stuff. No, we're not doing that anymore. I mean, card games can have a little bit of randomness, but controlled randomness, and that's the direction that we're going.
Is that kind of part of what the 2 bronze idea is? I don't know if that's actually something that's stuck or not, but that you would kind of, I guess, have more variation in what bronzes you can pull, which might be in a way adds a bit of variance and luck, for lack of a better term, without actually being create or something similar. Is that the idea, or?
Yeah, it kind of plays into it, but not only. I think the overall redesign of the cards themselves, not to have randomness in it, is the most important thing. But of course, yeah, the kind of like 2 copies of bronze kind of plays into it. But the most important thing is always just to, whenever you're designing something, is to not have a lot of our randomness in the game, because it kind of ruins the fun. Although like, still we had Gwen Open, we had the Shoop final, and when I was talking to Mogwai right after, as we were like changing from the fancy clothes, he's like, man, I normally don't like create, but that was like so fun to cast. I'm like, exactly, because
I was
it
gonna
was
say,
like
as a caster,
we
it
were
would be
like,
great.
yeah, we were just like on the edge there, and I was sitting in the back with the production guys, and we were like, holy, this was gonna happen, and it was awesome. It was awesome.
At Wild Hunt, whenever someone would play Shoop, everyone would just go Shoop, like it was some kind of roller coaster ride every time.
Yeah.
Shoop.
It's the New Mexican wave
Yeah,
of the Gwent world.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to our third viewer question, pre-submitted viewer question. There we are. Assuming the release date of Homecoming is achieved and new players enter, would you like to see a new series or perhaps just more community events and tournaments? Amaz, you mentioned that you guys are just starting up a tournament this weekend. Is this something you would like to see?
Oh, our little tournament, it's nothing like big or official. We're just kind of doing a social tournament.
Sure.
But I mean, it was involved in Wild Hunt 2, and so I can say, maybe biased, but there's definitely North American interest, and we would love some tournaments here that we don't have to arrange ourselves. That would be awesome. I would love to see something here, and I'm sure a lot of people agree with me.
But I'm guessing just with the expansion of having more, hopefully, more players and people coming into the game fresh and excited, I guess that would naturally lead to more community events as well as official events.
Yeah, and I know my group in particular, once Homecoming comes out, our amount of events is going to pick up. We're kind of petering out for the summer until there's some more stuff to work with. But once we get there, it's going to ramp up quick, and I'm sure we'll. I haven't talked to the mods yet, but we'll probably work something out in terms of a little bit of tournaments here and there.
Sure, great. Berja, what do you think?
I'll be happy to see more community-driven tournaments, because there's a lot of them happening, and what's really cool is there's a lot of them happening in Poland. Like, I get like local, even like physical shops who do like MTG tournaments or do any type of like, lands and stuff like that. They come over and ask like if we can support, and it's a lot easier to just like send out stuff in Poland. But also we support, of course, like bigger initiatives like Wild Hunt, plus other local tournaments with like Meteorite Powder. But with me and Vlad, which you had on the show, I think last time or maybe before that. Right. Yeah, last time. We're actually working very closely together, talking about like what we can do, like after Homecoming, if we can do something more to kind of empower, these community-driven tournaments, because I think there's still room for improvement in terms of how we can support these tournaments and what we can actually give from the developer side. Of course, we still need to develop something called spectator mode, which is it's just still planned, but of course, first we need to get done with Homecoming, and then we can actually move on to that. But yeah, like trying to find more ways in which we can actually empower and help the community in order to, make their life easier when they're organizing these tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and for those who don't know, Vladimir Tortsov, was on the last show on episode 3. You
Mhm.
can see that on YouTube if you're curious about some of the things that he was saying he might do for the community. Okay, so our lovely, lovely Mark Theus has been taking note of some questions in chat during the show. So we're going to throw to some of those. So we're going to actually open just with a quick question to you, Berja. Can we expect anything Gwent related at Gamescom?
Ooh.
Mm,
Was that
Simple.
it?
No.
No. Okay. your microphone cut out just as
That was it.
said it.
No.
No.
Nope.
No.
Triple no.
Triple no. Oh, that's a shame.
How about animated boards for Gwent? Is that a possibility for the
You
future?
want?
That is something that is going to happen with Homecoming.
Ooh,
Hey.
juicy leak right there.
So the next question was again, sorry, Amaz, a lot of these are aimed at
That's
Berja.
fine. That's fine.
Will Gwent have a Steam release? And if so, when? We know that Gwent, of course, releases on GOG. Are there any plans to put it onto Steam?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Very easy. And then the last viewer
Simple.
question we had here. These are easy. We're running through these like hotcakes. Berja, why did you decide? This is not me. This is the question. Berja, why did you decide to prevent dry passing? Because it's about talking about the 10 card limit that you mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
And don't you think it will limit strategic options and decision making? That's a big question. Whoa. Any ideas on that one, Berja?
With the current design of the game, it actually doesn't limit. It makes gameplay more interesting, and you don't get into a situation where you're playing arena and your opponent try passes round 1, and because it's like you shouldn't. That's not how the game should be played. And I think like overall, once you see the design of the cards and you see how the game plays out, after all the changes coming with Homecoming, you will actually get why we actually have that change. So
Sure. So
I would
it's
pretty
not
much
the
wait
only.
and see. We'll cover that.
So it's not the only kind of initiative being taken to deal with the coin flip issue. There will be other kind of ways in which cards interact with this limit that will somehow add to gameplay in some
Yes,
ways.
like we're still in the process of designing these things, and they're kind of changing. So we'll see, but I think it's a change that is really, really healthy and good for the game.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it, folks. That's all we've got for today. But thank you everyone for coming on the show. Big thank you, Ammers, for sharing your community with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And thank you everybody for the support.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks Berja as well for coming on. It has been wonderful. And of course, I have to throw a big thank you out there to my co-host Shinmiri for being the best as always, for sharing his time with us today as well. Thank you, Shinmiri.
It was awesome co-hosting with you, and really happy to hear what Burza and Ammers had to say. I'm super excited when the day comes that we'll get the video for the Homecoming link. Really, really looking forward to that, and hopefully it'll be soon. TM.
Absolutely. And I also have to, of course, throw thanks to our audience and to Green Cricket and Mark Theus for both contributing amazingly, undeniably to this talk show every single time with their incredible content. So thank you to them both. We will see you in 2 weeks. Yes, absolutely. We will see you in 2 weeks for episode 5 of GwenTalk. This will be a celebration of Team Aretuza's 1-year anniversary. I'm going to be doing this honeymoon thing that I've heard a little bit about, so I'm not going to be there. But you will be hosted by Shinmiri and LB Dutchboy. They will be your hosts for that episode, and our guests will be Demorki and Heno, the two big men, I guess, of Team Aretuza.
The
So
co-admins. Yep.
Sure. that's underplaying it a little bit, but you shall. The two co-admins of Team Aretuza. So we will be celebrating all things Team Aretuza. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please do clip things, see us on YouTube, join our public Discord, whatsoever you feel like doing. We love talking to you and learning more from you about what you like. So please do come and talk to us. And yeah, thank you again to our guests, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.